Genealogy. I am your favorite genealogist, Alia Diani, also known as AD. And today we're talking about, Freeman's Bureau records. And I really wanted to talk about this topic because it is very important to Black American history, and just our ethnic group as a whole. And so before we jump in, I want to say again, welcome to Infinity Genealogy. If you haven't already, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Again, please comment. I love reading the comments. It really helps us to build our community. And this platform, this channel was created for us to learn, unlearn, then relearn again. And so I provide different articles and talk about different topics. Everything on my channel is not always like academic based or article based. Sometimes I just share my thoughts. So please check out all of my playlists and see what you like. And again, comment, like, and share with your peers and your families. All right, so I'm gonna zoom in a little bit. Pardon me, I'm gonna take a sip of water. All right, so this is on Ancestry.com, and Ancestry has family history learning hubs. And one of their learning hubs is about the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Bank records. And so that's what we're going to learn about today. And so I'm going to do a brief overview of what this article entails, and then we're going to just read, a little bit. So, of course, it's the introduction. It talks about what the Freeman Bureau is, and then where did the Bureau operate. So, there are multiple states where it operated. Then it talks about what did the Freedmen's Bureau do, the types of records created by the Freedmen's Bureau, employment records, land records. It talks about preparing your research for your ancestors who were listed in those Freedmen Bureau records, checking out the census records, the pre Civil War status and surnames, which we know as last names, and the important legacy of the Freedmen's Bureau, why the Freemen, why the Freedmen's Bank part of the Freedmen's Bureau. What information can you find? Exploring Freedmen's Bureau and the bank records on Ancestry. And so I wanted to do a quick overview because, as you can see, there are multiple sections that we can look through. Also, again, I am a researcher. So, for those who don't know, I got my bachelor's degree in sociology and anthropology. And in anthropology, all of my research always focused on family dynamics, just family relationships. It was always surrounded by family, right? And then when I went on to get my master's in higher education, um, I focused on higher education, but with also an emphasis on American Indian higher education. So this has always been a part of me researching, learning about family, learning about different parts of our ethnicity. I think I will share one of my assignments with you all where I talked about the indigenous part. So, sorry, my brain went left. I don't say left. My brain, excuse me, went somewhere else. But I wanted to provide that because I wanted to point out the references. Whenever you're looking at an article, I highly recommend checking out the references so you can know where to look back at. So, as you look at here, if you really want to learn more about the Freedmen's Bureau and just freedmen as a ethnic group, and another federally recognized term, check these resources out. So you have a timeline of when slavery ended in the U.S. You also have African American research at the Library of Virginia. You have the American Experience, schools and education during Reconstruction, changing names through facinghistory.org, and just different articles here: the Freeman Savings Bank, the Female Bureau, African American Heritage, the U.S. National Archives and Records Administration. So as you can see, just by either using these resources, you can learn more and familiarize yourself more with this topic. And it's funny, I think in one of my episodes of Monolithic, the series that I'm doing, telling us to stop using absolute language, I think I use this resource here unknowingly. So that's great. Okay. Also, I want to scroll down a little bit just to give you more resources that Ancestry has. So they have the Great Migration between 1910 and 1970. Two major migrations of African Americans from the U.S. South took place. This period is known in American history as the Great Migration. So if you want to learn more about that, they also have Buffalo Soldier information and resources. While tracing your roots, you may have come across family stories about Buffalo soldiers, ancestry records collection. You find, excuse me, I keep making up words. Help to help you learn about potential Buffalo soldiers in your family's history. Then, of course, you have U.S. military records. So, okay, so we went through the basics of that. And so when we look at pretty much the point of this video in this article, as the U.S. Civil War was ending and enslaved people were free, President Lincoln and Congress established two important agencies to help formerly enslaved people transition from slavery to freedom: the Freedmen's Bureau and the Freedmen's Bank. For many African American family history researchers, the millions of documents created during this lifespan of these agencies can provide valuable insights into the lives of ancestors newly freed from enslavement. Freedmen's Bureau and Freedmen's Bank records are likely the first time formally enslaved Black Americans appeared in records after emancipation. Before 1865, enslaved people in the U.S. couldn't file official documents like marriage certificates, hold titles to land, register wills, or even be listed by name in federal census. That's not 100% true, but in many cases. Um, they were usually, that doesn't mean all, not named in those records, now commonly used by people tracing their family roots because they didn't have the legal rights to file them. Before emancipation, the only time the names of enslaved people usually appeared in formal records was in inventory lists that were part of former enslavers' wills, probate records, or in records regarding the financial transactions that governed their lives. So now, what is the Freedmen's Bureau? The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, commonly known as the Freedmen's Bureau, was established March 3rd, 1865. Its purpose was to provide aid in many different ways: food, housing, education, job support, medical care, for example, to those formerly enslaved, to veterans of the U.S. colored troops, and to impoverished white people. Okay. This agency was also part of the U.S. government's overall plan for reorganizing the former Confederate States after the war, a period known as Reconstruction. But the act passed by Congress, formally called an act to establish a Bureau for the Relief of Freedmen and Refugees, expired after a year. In 1866, Congress voted to extend the bill for 2 more years, overriding President Jackson's veto. Funding the Freedmen's Bureau ended in 1872. Okay, so as you can see, the records, there's going to be limited records. It's not even going to be 10 years worth of records, but those records, if you find anything, it's still going to be very important and valuable to your research. So you have, so where did the Freedmen's Bureau operate? So you have Alabama, you have Arkansas and Oklahoma, Delaware, DC, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, Missouri, North Carolina, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia, and the regular Virginia. Okay, and so it also says if your family lived like near the border states, or check out the states bordering your state. So check out your neighboring states. And it also says whether your family has southern roots or not. Keep in mind the migration. So that's why at the bottom migration was attached. So that's why I scrolled to the bottom first. Um, and so, millions of people moved from the north, from the south to the north. That's why a lot of people from Mississippi, a lot of people who currently live in Chicago have deep Mississippi roots a lot of times, right? That's not 100% for everyone, but that is probably the most common and commonly known migration story. Um, what did the Freedmen's Bureau do? Supporting more than 4 million people during the time that we talked about. And again, they helped with a variety of things. And something that I found interesting was they wrote letters on behalf of those who couldn't read or write. So again, you have people who are writing the narrative for you, even though it could be maybe they really did help, right? But who gets to write the narrative? And that's why it's so important for us to do our own research and create documents ourselves. And, it has to come from multiple perspectives, right? Um, let's see. So the types of records created. Again, they had employment records, apprenticeship agreements, land records, leases, financial records, medical records, including bounty awards, pension records, payment for military services, school records, student enrollment and attendance records, other records including ration lists, marriage records, court documents, hospital records, and just narrative reports. There's so much. So as you're preparing for your Freedmen Bureau, preparing for doing your research using the Freedmen's Bureau, you always check out the census records, um, make note of where they lived, any family members, birthplaces, all those great things, pre Civil War status, um, were they enslaved at the time of the Emancipation Proclamation? That can give you a lot of important details, as well as reminder that every Black American person was not technically enslaved, right? Um, and then you have surnames. Many enslaved people adopted or were assigned surnames of their former enslaver or at the plantation that they worked at, but others that have their own last names. And so the important legacy of the Freedmen's Bureau, perhaps it is very important because, again, they have some of those documents, as well as being the foundation of a lot of our historically Black colleges um, throughout the South. And so we talk about the bank, and it was separate from the Freedmen's Bureau, but they both had a similar goal. And as we know, the bank just disappeared, and a lot of people were harmed from that. So I will do a completely separate video on just the Freeman Bank. And then here are some records that Ancestry has. So they have the records, they have the marriage records, and they have the bank records. And so here are the different groups within the Freedmen's Bureau collection. So yeah, I hope you all enjoyed this video. I tried to do a quicker one. But tell me what you think and let's learn more about the Freeman history in the US. Thank you so much. Bye.